Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Niamh, and thank you, panel. A really interesting conversation. You might have seen the recent documentary series on the BBC on the harrowing subject of dementia. In it, the UK Government Minister Ed Balls looks at the care and treatment of sufferers in nursing homes, including his own mother, who no longer recognises him, which was tough viewing for those of us who have elderly parents like myself. I'm very pleased that our next speaker will be discussing some breakthrough technology for tackling dementia. Introducing him is Redmond O'Leary, Sales Manager of InterSystems in Ireland. We're very grateful to Redmond and the InterSystems team for arranging this talk. So please welcome Redmond to the stage.
Okay.
Thanks, Lorcan. Hi, I'm Redmond O'Leary. And when I first spoke to Lorcan about what client should we come to you today to speak with, I actually had no hesitation. InterSystems has built a global reputation over the last 4 decades on looking after 2 of the most valuable types, those that relate to your health and those that relate to your wealth. And tying in with the previous speaker, trust has been part and parcel of that throughout that time. Cognetivity is a client who partnered with InterSystems to help grow their digital business globally. Our speaker today is a PhD engineering graduate of Cambridge and has worked at the cutting edge of science. And that has included working in synthetic biology, where he worked with high precision lasers and ion beams. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? To help communicate and work on communicating with proteins and cells for human applications. So why is that relevant to you and today? Well, Dr. Sina Habibi took his passion for maths and science, along with his entrepreneurial drive, to co-found Cognetivity. He and his super talented team have built a very special technology that is groundbreaking. And this technology is going to affect us all from a neuroscience perspective. They took data and artificial intelligence to create something that I hope we're going to see use for us all globally. So please welcome Dr. Sina Habibi.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the kind introduction. Can I see my slides? Perfect. Yes, Sina here, co-founder and CEO of Cognetivity Neurosciences. As mentioned, we are a spin-out from Cambridge University. We're using latest neuroscience and artificial intelligence in order to detect neurodegeneration, in particular Alzheimer's, but we're not limited to that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Dementia is the biggest healthcare challenge of 21st century, despite COVID. And within the crisis of dementia, we have a huge problem with diagnosis. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, please. Dementia diagnosis begins with a cognitive test. These often memory-based pen and paper tests are designed for later stages of the disease, for someone who has significant memory problems, and they have language, culture, and education biases. They are designed in a certain universities for certain culture, and people who have got more better education do better at them, even though the situation might be worse. Worse than all of this, these tests can be learned in that when the patients go on a course of trial or treatment, these tests are repeated and patients can get better at them. This has been the major shortcoming in the last 3 decades in developing new treatments for diseases as such, because in late phase 3 trials, you realize that it's not your drugs that are working, it's the patients getting better at doing those tests. So in line with this, we have invented a new technology that we call it integrated cognitive assessment, or ICA for short. ICA looks at information processing by the brain as opposed to memory in order to detect neurodegeneration. The task is very simple. Images come on the screen for a very short period of time, in fact, 150 milliseconds to be precise, and they go away. The patients or the participant are supposed to respond to a very simple question. Did you see an animal in the image or not? If you see an animal, you press or tap on the right side of the screen as soon and as accurate as possible. If you don't see an animal, you press on the left side of the screen. And just like that, in a course of 5 minutes, we can detect neurodegeneration, in particular in case of Alzheimer's and dementia, impairment due to those diseases, independent of culture, language, and education, without the need for healthcare professional. The test can be done fully remotely, which is more topical today than ever before, and without learning bias, which is a huge, huge breakthrough when we're looking at developing new treatments. Can we go to next slide, please? The technology has been validated, but I just show you a quick overview, quick snapshot of one of the trials that we've done, which is fascinating. On the left side of screen, you see EEG graphs of participants who were healthy and took the test, and the ones in red, the ones that they had MCI or mild cognitive impairment. You can see completely different signal detected from a healthier brain versus a diseased brain, but also you can see specific responses to the images, natural images, where animals are present. Some people argue there's a lot of literature that this is due to what we call food or fear phenomena. So over the years of evolution, we have become very sensitive to images whereby animals are present because we were either their food or they were ours. On the right side of the screen, you see an fMRI image of a participant taking the test. All key areas that are activated simultaneously during a participant taking our test are shown to be areas affected at the very early stage of disease development. And this is, again, a case in point that this test can pick up deterioration before due to the disease before anybody else can do that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now that we've discussed briefly discussed the neuroscientific breakthrough, let's quickly walk you through the data science component of this study, this technology. Traditional approaches to cognitive assessment are very similar to any examinations that you have in the past. You take a score, and if you do below a certain cutoff, you have failed and you've been deemed as to be impaired. This one-dimensional approach has a limitation in that adding more data points, if we can go to the next slide, adding more data points, and as a result, moving the cutoffs does not improve the accuracy of the assessment. Can we go to the next slide? As you can see, by moving the cutoffs to lower, we have more false negative ones. And next slide, increasing the cutoffs will increase the false positive ones. If we go to the next slide, this problem can be mapped in a higher dimension, and as a result, we can improve the accuracy of these classifiers in higher dimensions. In the next slide, we'll show you that this is demonstrated when we move from two-dimensional space to three-dimensional space. Can we go to the next slide? This is a visual demonstration of how adding more data points in this scenario will improve the accuracy of the classifiers. Can we go to the next slide, please? And this is precisely what we have done with this technology. Every single image that is shown to the participant has got its own characteristics. We play with complexity, we play with level of surprise, entropy. All of those are certain inputs that we can collect the accuracy and reaction times of the patients to them, and build a profile of responses that we can add to by using patient data, medical history, in the future pharmacological history, and build a very powerful classifier that can help us identify the patient's impairment a lot more accurately, which can become even more accurate with additional data, and we can build predictive models accordingly. Can we go to next slide? So this is basically the scientific breakthrough, the AI component and the neuroscience component. But what's more important here is the solution, the product that we built. One of the biggest unmet need at the moment is the delivery of the new treatments to the patients out there. Since we started the company, everyone was telling us, oh, there is no treatment. You don't need an early diagnosis. This is actually not helpful. But now that for the first time in the history, we have a drug that can treat the disease, everyone is running around and asking how we can find all these patients, millions of patients out there that could be benefited from these treatments. Bloomberg reported almost 88 million Americans believe that they need to be receiving aducanumab or Aduhelm, the recently approved FDA drugs by Biogen, from which only 2.4 million people are actually eligible. We can deploy our technology on the web in order to detect those ones who are at risk, direct them to testing centers where we can deploy, when we can take the clinical test from them and send them through the ones that approved that they have impairment, sent through the full-on diagnosis process, which is very expensive and lengthy because they need MRI, CT scan, and PET. Post-diagnosis, when the intervention begins, we can use the technology at home by patients to self-monitor themselves, which is a very powerful tool in order to engage patients in the course of the treatment, which has been proven to have improved the patient outcomes. Can we go to the next slide, please? We believe our technology, ICA, has all characteristics to become the de facto cognitive assessment anywhere it's needed in the clinical practice. And we've taken some major leaps towards that. The technology is fully validated. We have a very strong science evidence base. We are CE marked, and we are in commercial and clinical use within the National Health Services of the United Kingdom. And we recently partnered with InterSystems. This is huge because we're moving towards making the process of using the technology as seamless and as easy as possible for our clinicians. And this partnership precisely allows for that. You can call and administrate the test by looking at patients' data, and the test result can be on the screen for the clinicians to make the decision before even patients step in to the office and see the clinicians. We're making some further partnerships in order to make our adoption and acceleration as fast and as scalable as possible, as such as we're doing with InterSystems. We recently received our FDA clearance, which allows us to market the product across the United States. Can we go to the next slide, please? As you saw, the technology is platform, and we are working on lots of different applications. And the ones that are just highlighted are around delivery of new treatments. I just mentioned aducanumab, but by Biogen, but there's more of these drugs coming to the market. We have Gantab by Roche and 2 other drugs by Eli Lilly. The decision by FDA to approve this drug was a hugely political decision as well. There's a lot of funding. There's a lot of drugs that now getting closer to approval. So watch the space. Is going to be a lot happening. We can also use the technology as a secondary endpoint of clinical trials. Given that it takes only 5 minutes, it can be added to any clinical trial protocol without any disturbance to the patients, and it can give a good sensitive endpoint. As I mentioned, we have had a lot of issues with lack of sensitive endpoint to the trials and learned endpoint to the trials that has been the reason for failing drug development. We can address that problem. We can also be used as an adjunct tool for other assessment methodologies, such as fluid biomarkers. We recently published a breakthrough result in showing that our digital cognitive test or biomarker is correlated with blood biomarkers and CSF. This is very powerful because in conjunction with other tools, we can improve the predictive value. And again, look at the mass population and bring in those who need further assessment. We can also help patients in a beyond the pill approach where they go on a course of treatment. By engaging them in the process, we can improve the likelihood of success. Also, the technology is not only for people who are at risk of the disease or have the problem. We can use the technology in a well-being solution where you can monitor your well-being, your cognitive well-being. And also, we have built a solution around the core assessment where it collects data from other sources, such as your wearable, and builds a holistic view of your brain and body health, and also suggest how you can improve your your brain health by taking personalized approach. In that, by taking the test regularly and collecting the data from different sources, the engine will find out that for you, particularly, for example, exercise and sleep has got better impact on your improved cognitive health. On top of this, we're working on lots of different applications. As you saw, the technology's platform, the AI can be pointed at different solutions. We're working on projects such as monitoring treatments of depression, looking at picking up ADHD and OCD in children in a study in Latin America, and lots of different studies wherever you need quick and objective measurement of one's cognitive health. You can use our technology. So if you have any ideas that you want to work with us, co-create and co-develop, we're happy to hear from you.
That's great. Thanks, Sina.
Thank you.
Great. Well, the audience certainly seemed to be enthralled. It's a shame you couldn't be with us today, but that was really interesting. And I hope for each of you that you certainly seem to be enthralled. You found that very interesting, and you can see how that's going to revolutionize neurosciences for us all. But we have some questions coming in. And the number one question, Sina, is when will we see this in Ireland?
We are CE marked, so we can deploy the technology tomorrow if we want in Ireland. We need to have the right partnership in order to make this happen to the scale that we wanted, because we're a small company with limited resources, and the strategic position here is that if we go to a new market, it needs to be alongside the right partners.
Well, if anyone in the audience here wants to contact Sina, please come to me at our stand here physically or drop a note through the virtual stand. Next question, Sina. What challenges did you face in dealing with end users? And there's a clarification, the clinicians in the health practices. What sort of challenges did you face?
That's a great question. I want to bring up InterSystems again. So there's been pitches to our dear clinicians, and we've gone through the length of our scientific evidence and the breakthrough and all that. And we got them interested and engaged, but then towards the end, we told them, we can probably give you a PDF that automatically is producing a referral letter. And suddenly the spark came in and they just got excited and said, can you really do that? Because uh, in terms of usability, all of that is important. But if you can save some time for clinicians, this is what sticks. So we're working towards, they don't want an additional piece of technology in their office that they need to learn and they need to spend some time to work. But if you come in and give them some extra time, and the way we say it is in order to enable them to do more with less, is something that sticks. It took us some time to understand that all this scientific breakthrough and all that is interesting, but you need to look at how you can make their life easier as well.
Yeah, thanks. Well, look, we're running out of time. I'll ask you one more question, Sina, please. And application of ICA to professional athletics such as soccer or American football and others. Would you like to comment on that one?
Absolutely. We're working on two different cohorts. One is on concussion. This is an area that we believe we can help. And also on longer term brain health monitoring. As I'm sure you're aware, there are some high profile cases in football players developing dementia. There are different contributing factors to this. We're working with the FA in order to get some of our football players to be monitored over long term and find out what are these contributing reasons that we can tackle. But absolutely, professional sports is more than ever aware of brain health being so important, and we've had some huge high-profile cases, even in the last Olympic, that raised the awareness more than ever before.
And certainly we have a few cases in Ireland over the last number of years with our professional sports here, whether it's rugby or Gaelic or hurling. So I really look forward to, hopefully we'll see Sina's application here in Ireland, don't you think? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah? Well, look, thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Sina. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Redmond.
Thanks,
Thank you, Redmond, as well, for being a very charming host there.